So there's some news hitting the internet streets, and all you got to do is head over to LSU's official website and look at the roster. Juwan Johnson is listed as a quarterback on LSU's current roster. And for all I know for sure, some intern over there at Sports Properties or at LSU Sports Information may have put the information in incorrectly. And maybe this is not real, but all indications are that it is. And if you connect some dots with LSU's current quarterback situation, it does make some sense. But here's my take on this entire situation, if in fact Juwan Johnson is moving to quarterback full-time. Yes, as of January 1st, you were looking at an LSU quarterback room that had Garrett Nussmeier returning, that had Colin Hurley returning, that had Michael Van Buren coming in from the transfer portal, and was missing A.J. Swan and Ricky Collins. So you had three scholarship quarterbacks, Nussmeier, Van Buren, Hurley. And that's light, but it's not completely out of the ordinary in this day and age where quarterbacks transfer at a rate more frequently than any position on the field in any collegiate sport. So that's light, and then Colin Hurley gets into the car accident. And he's now away from the program. He's recovering in Jacksonville at home. And you've now, as it sits today, in the middle of February, you've got two scholarship quarterbacks. Now, an NFL team would just go to the practice squad and sign one, or they'd go out and make sure they got one off the street. And you don't really have that option in college football. Like, there is another transfer portal window. Maybe you can add one there. But it may be that they're moving Juwan Johnson there to be the third quarterback. And that, on its face, makes a ton of sense because Juwan Johnson is quite literally the most productive high school quarterback in the history of Louisiana. He set state records with 14,451 yards and 171 touchdowns accounted for at Lafayette Christian. He led his team to 4 straight state title game appearances, breaking records set by Brock Berlin back in the 90s. So he makes a lot of sense. Well, who's a quarterback? How can we find a quarterback? Well, look at this guy. Nobody's been more productive at quarterback than him. And Juwan Johnson has already shown this year that he's so athletic and so adaptable, he can shift positions. Because we went out to watch fall camp all of August, and he backed up Major Burns at the Star all of August. And then the first game of the season, boom, you get an injury to John Emery. And the next week, we find out Juwan Johnson's working at running back. And the next week, he went out against Nichols 5 days after switching positions and caught 3 passes and scored a touchdown at running back when he had been playing defense his whole time in Baton Rouge. That is incredible. And we talked about it. And it shows how naturally gifted he is with the ball in his hand. But to me, moving from safety to running back is one thing. Moving from another position to Southeastern Conference quarterback is a whole nother one. And I believe that while, for all the reasons I laid out, this makes sense on its face, that this is a detriment to LSU's 2025 football team. Now, why do I say that? Because Juwan Johnson was a 4-star recruit, one of the top athletes in the country, and you felt like he was good enough to step in with the twos at safety immediately. And then he went to running back and looked like he could help you there. It feels to me like Juwan Johnson is a good enough football player to help LSU chase a championship in 2025. Can we all agree that LSU is attempting to chase championships in 2025? Southeastern Conference, playoff, national championships. I'm not telling you they're going to win it. Can we agree they're setting up to chase it? I think Juwan Johnson's a good enough athlete to do that at either running back or safety. I do not believe, under any circumstance, that Juwan Johnson is a good enough quarterback to lead LSU to championships. Said another way, if Garrett Nussmeier gets hurt, and Michael Van Buren gets hurt, and Colin Hurley doesn't rejoin the team, and you've now got a situation where Juwan Johnson has to play quarterback, LSU's season is toast. That's how I see it. So to me, trying to fill bodies at quarterback just because you don't have enough and potentially compromising production in another position in case the worst case scenario happens is not positive for LSU. teams on their third-string quarterback, in this case fourth-string quarterback, don't chase championships. Save me the Cardale Jones example. It's a fine trump card to play. I've got a century of history that suggests it won't look like that. John Trey Kirkland was a ridiculously productive quarterback in his high school days. He threw for 7,500 yards in high school. He had a month to prepare to play quarterback against Kansas State, and until the last play of the game, he was 6 of 10 passing for 57 yards against Kansas State. Not apples to apples because LSU had half a roster, but you get the point that I'm looking at there. You watched Anquan Bolden try to go out there in the Sugar Bowl, and that's not going to work. You watched Denver, who had 4 COVID quarterbacks against the Saints, try to wide receiver out there, and it didn't work. When you get that many quarterbacks hurt, your season is cooked. So trying to mitigate those losses with a body, to me, doesn't help. Now, here is the counterpoint to that. I've made my stance pretty clear. I think we can all agree on that. I don't like this move. I'll be okay with it if one of these things is true. If he's actually a running back, but he's going to work at quarterback in the spring and they might put a package in for him, I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine. I wouldn't change his bio on the website for that, but that's fine. He's a great athlete. You want him to play some running back, maybe get a few snaps at the Wildcat, great. If you think that Juwan Johnson can't help at running back, it can't help at safety. He's not good enough to help at either one of those positions. We've added people. We've added Harlem Berry and JT Lindsey, and we've got Caden Durham and Caleb Jackson. And you look at safety, and we've added Mansour Delane, and we've added Tamarcus Cooley, and we've fortified our secondary and our running back spots, and we don't think he's good enough to play either of those positions. So we're going to put him as the emergency quarterback because he theoretically could help us in the worst bind ever, and we're not compromising either of the other two spots. If you think that's the case, fine. But if there is a chance that Juwan Johnson could really help in the two deep at safety and or running back, and you have him as the scout team quarterback who's being called on an emergency because 3 other quarterbacks were compromised and couldn't play, that is wasting an asset to me. That's what I think. So this is one of those situations where we are speculating a little bit, but my stance on this is pretty clear. You've got an uber-talented guy who should be able to help, and if he's the third-string quarterback, in this case the fourth-string quarterback because one of your guys is not with the team, that to me is a waste. So we'll find out from Brian Kelly when he meets with the media prior to spring football, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure that he'll be asked about this a significant amount. And I do not mean this at all as a slight to Juwan Johnson, who is such a dynamic player. But he falls in a line of dozens, not exaggerating, dozens of LSU players who were uber productive high school quarterbacks that really helped elsewhere. This is not even close to the whole list, but I'll just toss some out there that a lot of you are aware of. Early Doucette, Corey Webster, Reuben Randall, Kendall Beckwith, Spencer Ware, Russell Gage. The list goes on and on and on about guys who took snaps in high school but helped LSU win games at other positions because that's where their athleticism took over. Do you know how hard it is to play quarterback at a championship level? I'm not asking you if you can have Juwan Johnson go out there and beat Nichols. I'm talking about playing Alabama. I'm talking about playing Texas A&M. I'm talking about going to the playoff and playing Clemson again or Michigan. You think that it's reasonable to expect Juwan Johnson to go back there and function against that? 5-star Elite 11 quarterbacks buckle under that stuff. It's hard to do, especially when no one thought you were going to do it in college. Sure, he could have gone to Southeastern and played quarterback. This ain't Southeastern. I think he's going to help. He should help at safety or running back. That is my 2 cents on the issue. It's potentially an overreaction, but I feel like it warrants a reaction. So if you'd like to read some more of my thoughts on it, you can do so at louisianasports.net. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.